This bag of fluid just saved my patient's life, but if I had chosen the wrong one, it could have killed them. What you're looking at isn't just IV fluid. It's a complex medication that can expand blood volume, shift electrolytes, and literally move water between your patient's cells. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to choose the right IV fluid every single time and avoid the deadly mistakes that even experienced nurses make. Hey everyone, welcome back to NurseBrain. I am Neil Brian Galve, and if you're working in the critical care, med-surg, or anywhere patients receive IV fluids, this video could change how you practice nursing forever. Here's the reality. Most nurses think of IV fluids as just hydration, but here's what they don't teach you in nursing school. IV fluids are medications. They have specific indications, contraindications, and side effects. Choose the wrong fluid and you could cause cerebral edema, kidney injury, or electrolyte imbalances that put your patient's life at risk. I've seen nurses hang normal saline on every patient without thinking twice. I've watched new grads struggle to understand why their heart failure patient got worse after receiving lactated ringers. And I've witnessed the confusion when a patient's sodium levels crash after getting hypotonic fluids. So today, we're going to master IV fluids once and for all. We'll cover isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic solutions, when to use each one, and the clinical pearls that will make you the nurse who always makes the right choice. Before we dive into specific fluids, you need to understand the concept that governs everything: tonicity. And here's where most people get confused, so pay attention. Your patient plasma has a normal osmolality of 280 to 295 milliosmoles per liter. Think of this as the concentration of particles in their blood. Now, when we give IV fluids, we're either matching this concentration, going above it, or going below it. Isotonic fluids have roughly the same osmolality as plasma, 250 to 375. These fluids stay in the extracellular space and don't cause major fluid shifts between cells and blood vessels. Hypertonic fluids have higher osmolality, greater than 375. These pull fluid out of cells and into the bloodstream. Think of them as cellular dehydrators. Hypotonic fluids have lower osmolality, less than 250. These push fluid into cells and can cause them to swell. Here's the clinical pearl that will change your practice. The tonicity determines where the fluid goes in your patient's body. Get this wrong, and you could cause cerebral edema in a head injury patient or worsen heart failure in a cardiac patient. Let's start with the most common IV fluid, 0.9% normal saline. And right off the bat, I need to tell you something shocking. Normal saline isn't actually normal at all. Normal saline contains 154 milliequivalents of sodium and 154 milliequivalents of chloride per liter. Compare that to your patient's actual plasma: 135 to 145 sodium and 98 to 107 chloride. See the problem? Normal saline has way more chloride than your patient's blood. This is why large volumes of normal saline cause hyperchloremic metabolic acidosis. That excess chloride acidifies the blood and can cause kidney injury. Studies show that normal saline reduces kidney function by 30 to 40% compared to balanced fluids. So, do we use normal saline? It's great for volume resuscitation when you need it to expand the extravascular space quickly. It's the only fluid compatible with blood products, and it's useful when you want to avoid potassium in patients with kidney disease. But here's what most nurses don't know. Normal saline is actually slightly hypertonic with an osmolality of 308. It's not truly isotonic, which is why it's effective at staying in the bloodstream. Clinical pearl: if your patient needs more than 2 to 3 liters of fluid, consider switching to balanced solution to avoid chloride overload. Now, let's talk about lactated ringers, my personal favorite for most situations. This is what we call a balanced fluid because it more closely resembles your patient's actual plasma composition. LR contains 130 sodium, 4 potassium, 3 calcium, 109 chloride, and 28 lactate. Notice how much closer these numbers are to normal plasma values? This is why LR causes fewer metabolic complications than normal saline. But here's the key point about that lactate. It's not the lactate you measure in septic patients. This lactate gets converted to bicarbonate by the liver, acting as a buffer to prevent acidosis. Eller is technically hypotonic with an osmolality of 273, which means it can cause slight cellular swelling. This is why we avoid it in patients with head injuries or increased intracranial pressure. When do we use LR? It's excellent for surgical patients, trauma resuscitation, and anytime you need large volume replacement. It's also great for patients with metabolic acidosis because that lactate converts to bicarbonate. Here are some contraindications. Avoid in patients with severe liver disease who can't metabolize lactate, and be cautious in hyperkalemic patients because of the potassium content. Let me introduce you to Plasmalyte, the Rolls-Royce of IV fluids. This solution has specifically designed to match plasma composition as closely as possible. Plasmalyte contains 140 sodium, 5 potassium, 98 chloride, 4 magnesium, 27 acetate, and 23 gluconate. With an osmolality of 295, it's truly isotonic and causes minimal metabolic disturbance. The acetate and gluconate are metabolized to bicarbonate throughout the body, not just in the liver like lactate. This makes it safer for patients with liver dysfunction. Studies suggest Plasmalyte may be superior to both normal saline and LR for reducing kidney injury and metabolic complications. It's also compatible with blood products. The downside? Cost. Plasmalyte is more expensive than other crystalloids, which is why many hospitals don't stock it routinely. Now, let's talk about hypertonic saline, 3% sodium chloride. This is a powerful medication that demands respect and careful monitoring. With an osmolality of 1030, hypertonic saline creates a massive osmotic gradient that pulls fluid from inside cells into the bloodstream. We use this property to treat cerebral edema and severe hyponatremia. In patients with increased intracranial pressure, hypertonic saline shrinks brain cells, reducing pressure and improving perfusion. It's like giving the brain more room inside the skull. For severe hyponatremia, sodium less than 120 with symptoms, hypertonic saline can be life-saving. But here's the critical part. You must correct sodium slowly. Too fast, and you cause osmotic demyelination syndrome, which can leave your patient with permanent neurologic damage. Here are some safety considerations. Hypertonic saline should only be given through a central line because it's so caustic to peripheral veins. Monitor sodium levels every 2 to 4 hours and never correct sodium faster than 8 to 12 mg per liter in 24 hours. Here's some clinical pearl. Always use an infusion pump with hypertonic saline. Free-flowing 3% saline can cause rapid, dangerous sodium elevation. Hypotonic fluids like 0.45% saline are the most dangerous IV fluids we use, and here's why. They cause cellular swelling. Half normal saline has an osmolality of 154, which drives fluid into cells. In the brain, this causes cerebral edema and increased intracranial pressure. I've seen hypotonic fluids cause seizures, coma, and death in patients with head injuries. When do we use hypotonic fluids? They are useful for replacing free water deficits in hypernatremic patients. If your patient's sodium is elevated, hypotonic fluids can help normalize it by providing free water. But here are the absolute contraindications. Never give hypotonic fluids to patients with head injuries, stroke, or any condition that could cause cerebral edema. And never give them rapidly. Cellular swelling takes time, but it can be deadly. Dextrose-containing fluids are fascinating because they change their tonicity as the dextrose is metabolized. Let me explain this concept that confuses so many nurses. D5 water starts as an isotonic solution with an osmolality of 253, but once that dextrose is metabolized, you're left with free water, making it effectively hypotonic. This is why D5 water can cause the same cellular swelling as other hypotonic fluids. D5 normal saline starts hypertonic with an osmolality of 560, but becomes isotonic as the dextrose is metabolized. D5 lactated ringers follows the same pattern. Here's some clinical implication. You need to consider both the initial effect and the final effect when choosing dextrose solutions. D5 water might seem safe initially, but it becomes hypotonic and can cause cerebral edema. When do we use dextrose solutions? They provide calories, about 170 calories per liter with D5 water. They're useful in diabetic patients who need both fluid and glucose, and in patients who need free water replacement but can't tolerate pure hypotonic solutions initially. Finally, let's talk about colloids, albumin, hetastarch, and other large molecule solutions. These are heavy hitters of volume expansion. Colloids contain large proteins or molecules that can't cross capillary membranes. This creates oncotic pressure that pulls fluid into the bloodstream and keeps it there longer than crystalloids. Albumin comes in 5% and 25% concentrations. The 5% is isotonic and expands plasma volume. The 25% is hypertonic and actually pulls fluid from tissues into the bloodstream. When do we use colloids? They're exactly for patients who need volume expansion but can't handle large volumes of crystalloids. Think of heart failure patients or those with severe hypoproteinemia. The controversy: colloids are expansive and may not improve outcomes compared to crystalloids in most patients. But in specific situations like severe burns or massive fluid losses, they can be life-saving. Now, let's put it all together. How do you choose the right IV fluid for your patient? Here's my systematic approach. First, assess your patient's volume status. Are they dehydrated, euvolemic, or fluid overload? This determines whether they need volume expansion, maintenance, or restriction. Second, check their electrolytes. Hyponatremic? Consider isotonic or hypertonic fluids. Hypernatremic? They might need hypotonic solutions. Hyperkalemic: avoid potassium-containing fluids like LR. Third, consider their underlying conditions. Head injury? Avoid hypotonic fluids. Heart failure? Minimize volume and consider colloids. Kidney disease? Avoid potassium and monitor closely. Fourth, think about the clinical situation. Trauma resuscitation? Normal saline or LR for rapid volume expansion. Maintenance fluids? Balanced solutions are usually best. Cerebral edema? Hypertonic saline. Here's some clinical pearl. When in doubt, balanced isotonic solutions like LR or Plasmalyte are usually the safest choice for most patients. Alright, let's wrap this up. IV fluids aren't just hydration. They're powerful medications that can save lives or cause serious harm. Understanding tonicity, electrolyte composition, and clinical indications is crucial for safe patient care. Remember the key principles. Isotonic fluids stay in the extracellular space. Hypertonic fluids pull water from cells, and hypotonic fluids push water into cells. Normal saline is overused and can cause kidney injury. Balanced solutions like LR and Plasmalyte are usually better choices. Hypertonic saline is powerful but dangerous, and hypotonic fluids can cause deadly cerebral edema. Most importantly, always consider your patient's specific condition, electrolyte status, and clinical needs when choosing IV fluids. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. If this video changed how you think about IV fluids, smash that like button and subscribe for more critical care content that will make you a better nurse. And if you want to dive deeper into fluid management, check out this video on hemodynamic monitoring. It's the perfect next step. Drop a comment below and let me know what's your biggest challenge with IV fluid selection. Have you seen complications from inappropriate fluid choices? I love hearing your experiences and helping you become the best nurse you can be. Until next time, choose your fluids wisely, monitor your patients closely, and remember, you've got this. Once again, this is NurseBrain, inspiring greatness one lesson at a time.